what was the starting point for this album?
I guess we started sending material back and forth to each other, loops and this and that. A lot of stuff hit the cutting room floor, and developed into what exists now. We came together. God, when did we first play in Sydney when we were in Pyrmont?
Oh, I guess 2014, I think.
Yeah.
Is that right? December 2014 or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so we had over that summer, we did a couple of sessions of 10 days or a fortnight, December and January, and then kind of wrote stuff together all in the same room, in this, in a sort of a basic studio, just a friend's studio with a control room and a small live room. We could sort of do sort of demo quality drums and guitars and stuff, and so we had a few ideas that we'd already been kicking around, some stuff I had done at home, some stuff I'd done with Dave in Sydney, and then Richard had a bunch of ideas that he'd been doing in London. But then, we did a bunch of jamming as well, and kind of pretty quickly found a sort of thread that sonically I think that we wanted the record to have, and kind of chose a palette of sounds to sort of work within, which essentially was kind of, drums and sort of Korg MS-20 and a couple of soft synth patches in particular, of particular sort of percussive sounds and some synth sounds.
It actually the record started quite percussive, and to be honest, I pulled back on that because it was not pulled back, but I took that somewhere else, and especially because I was doing a lot of songwriting. For the first time in years, I was doing a lot of songwriting just on acoustic guitar, which is something we don't really do, which is probably strange to hear because the record is incredibly electronic.
Yeah.
But there were, a number of processes going on. So I guess I took what we explored with the percussion and the soft synths and of course analog stuff, which we can't avoid because we love it. And molded it into something. And it's always a process of finding the sound palette, and that was important this record because we wanted to find a new sound palette, find that sound palette, and then see what sticks and see
what made sense in that world. Of the stuff we've been working on, and then just kind of slowly discard bits and.
Yeah, and it often feels like, more and more, I think it feels like we're like a visual artist finding their palette and then finding our own language and then exploring that language. So that record, this record felt like there's a new sound world for us.
For an electronic album, there's quite a bit of space in the music. There's no clutter. It's like every sound is deliberately there, and there's no superfluous sounds. Is that a conscious thing, or it's just...
Yes.
I think it's something we've been trying to get better at for years. I mean, it's great to hear you say that, because I feel like in the past, the trouble is, like, when you have lots of ideas and you get excited, I think in the past we've done stuff where we just pile ideas on top of each other until, like, it's just like, sometimes it becomes so dense and it's, not unlistenable, but it's, the ideal that you're always aiming for is exactly that, is for every sound to kind of have its place, and that I think we wanted the ideas to be very clear. That was something that was so every sound has a kind of, but like not in a really laboured way, but just in terms of like getting good at kind of
giving sounds the space they deserve. And letting them be framed so that you enjoy those sounds rather than layering things, because it's the classic thing for a young band to get in the studio and layer and layer and layer, because it's exciting, and you know, everyone likes that sort of, you know, Pet Sounds kind of ideal of putting the world in every song. And more we've just let go of that idea the older we've gotten, and really like doing something sparse. You know, I've gotten into, you know, soundtrack music, for example. You know, you've probably heard of Cliff Martinez, who does a lot of soundtrack stuff, and I saw him talk recently, and he talked about what he calls doing one thing. So he'll get one synth or one sound that he enjoys, and his whole job is for 5 minutes trying to not clutter up. You know, when things get exciting, rather than adding drums or layering things, he'll just go, how can I get this one sound and develop that into something that does the energy I want? It's more affecting, you know, it feels like you've gone on a journey with this sound, rather than here come the drums, here come the horns, here come the layers, you know. So at the same time, I feel like we've done quite a maximal record in terms of rhythm and in terms of ideas, but at the same time, I'm so pleased that you said, you know, it has space. I like that idea of having it being about rhythm and being exciting, and but not letting busyness get in the way. It's still, I feel like you can see through the mix, if you know what I mean.
And New Spirit, why was that the title track?
Yeah, that came about. It wasn't originally going to be the title, but it was the one that stuck. We tentatively used it as a title while we were searching for something else, but then we realised it was kind of the title under our nose. It best described everything we wanted to describe. So that the album cover is obviously is a gum leaf that sort of is piercing itself, which was a concept that Jonathan Zawada, the artist, came up with after listening to the record, and we described to him the kind of ideas we were going for. We wanted it to be Australian, and we were talking about the current times we live in, and the record is a reaction to that. It's a political record, I suppose, without being, you know, having an agenda. We just wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, I think we wanted to have a conversation about Australian identity, I guess. And I guess we figured that we've always wanted to go out and explore sort of
The world.
explore the sort of border regions musically of our kind of musical understanding, and if we're going to sort of have lyrical content, I think we sort of felt like it's kind of our obligation to do the same. If we're going to put records out, we should have something to say, really, and I think, you know, rather than kind of go down the path which we sort of explored a little bit in the last one of kind of, you know, songs about relationships and love or sex and drugs or, you know, whatever that, you know, most people kind of write about. It's like, well, what have we got that's to offer that's, you know, unique to us and the way we think and reflects, you know, where we are at the moment and how we feel about the world. And it's like, you know, the world's is in a pretty tumultuous time at the moment, and it's like, and there's not many people really talking about it in Australian music, I don't think.
Yeah, I think it's becoming a thing again. But
I hope so.
when we started writing, it felt like, you know, there hasn't been an Aussie band like Midnight Oil, for example, is probably the biggest example, or most famous example. And you know, we were actually listening to stuff like that and wondering why there weren't many, and especially young bands, you know, doing that anymore. So it became something we wanted to explore. And I guess the word spirit kept getting used in our lyrics, and we wanted to explore what that meant, and what that meant for where we come from and for the country that we're from.
Spirit's a word that gets thrown a lot around in Australia, you know, the idea of the Australian spirit and spirit of the Anzacs and, you know, spirit of Australia and all that sort of stuff. So
it kept coming back. And it was also about a personal exploration of our own spirit and what we want from life.
What were the main tools that you used in the creation of this album?
In terms of like
analog synths?
Yeah, synths, and well, I mean, my go-to for a long time has been the Roland Juno 106, but I decided to leave that this record because when you use a piece of gear all the time, you start to lose your love.
You also tend to start to get the same results over and over again.
Yeah. And what we talked about earlier on was percussion, so I decided, you know, what were we going to use, and I was exploring sounds. Soft synths became really fun to me because you could do some really percussive stuff with pitch sounds that you can't necessarily do as a player. So, you know, there's a lot of MIDI on this record, which I really enjoyed. And so, yeah, a mixture of soft synths, and then, like Laurence said before, the Korg MS-20 became a real thing on this record. Every song pretty much playing the bass line or the arpeggiator thing, the arpeggiator loops, which made the core of the song. So, it was a good way to explore percussion, just have that, like I said, the one thing, the one sound.
I think we wanted to use some, it was fun to use some bits of gear that we just would not normally as well. Like I did a bunch of demos using a Roland XP30, is that what it's called?
XP80.
XP80 or
is that 80?
I mean, it's like an early 90s, you know, like home Roland synth, just with lots of preset. I got really into like sort of 90s simulations of orchestral sounds and stuff like that. So like writing melodies using pitched up timpani sounds and stuff like that. Just unorthodox sort of sounds that would take us away out of our usual mode of thinking or our usual palette of sounds. And I found it really exciting and fun. You know?
Yeah, really sort of, I think, sounds that in the past we would have thought were a bit naff. Became exciting for
possibly
us
only because they come from a sort of seemingly like impure source, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas now I think it's more like, well, it doesn't really matter where it comes from. It's like it's the sort of the way you frame it or the impact it has, you know. So
and also listening wise, I've been really getting into you know, really synthetic sounds, and synthetic as in, you know, a fake brass sound, you know, a synth trying to do a brass sound, and even the last record, when I was using, you know, for example, the Roland Juno, I found I was trying to make it sound like, you know, trombones. So, you know, more and more we've been doing that with actually getting those kind of, those 90s synthetic sounds.
The album comes out in Feb. What happens for the rest of 2017?
Oh, who knows?
We've got our gigs down under.
Down under?
Yeah, we're playing.
What says that?
Oh, I'll say it. What's wrong with that? That's it. It does sound weird.
Living in London too long.
Well, I mean, that's what people say.
That's what like British tourists say.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm a British tourist in Australia. Is that better? Australia. And then over in Europe, hopefully we're playing in April, May. That's not confirmed, but that's looking like the timeline. And who knows? Hopefully some more gigs later in the year.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, good to chat.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks so much.